Welcome to a Thursday edition of Bury Your Bookie. I'm Jeff Deforrest. Very happy to be with you, and we wish all of our degenerate Jewish friends out there and brethren the happiest of New Year celebrations, as it is Rosh Hashanah. I am Jewish, although I'm not a very religious person. I had a religious epiphany many years ago when I was in the Jamaica OTB parlor in New York City. I was covering a Hurricanes University of Miami basketball game against St. John's. Had to kill the better portion of the day. Naturally, I gravitated towards any kind of parimutuel activity. And this preceded the day where you actually had screens in these establishments. So everybody's looking up at a speaker, listening to the call of a race from various racetracks around the country that were being simulcast there. And I'm looking around the room and I'm thinking, my God, these guys all look like they came off the cover of the old Jethro Tull album, Aqualung, sitting on a park bench. Remember the degenerate, decrepit guy that was there? And I'm looking up at the ceiling thinking, what the fuck am I doing here? I look around and I say, I can't believe it. I'm one of these low-life degenerates. And then it flashed before me what religion was really all about, if there is a heaven and a hell. And I thought, well, if this is purgatory, then hell is the same room, same conditions, same people, only with no ability to wager. And since then, I really have kind of distanced myself from religion, although I did have a bar mitzvah. And I was talking earlier today on another show about the first wine I ever sampled was Manischewitz. And it's not like Manischewitz. I mean, you could probably do a taste comparison, Manischewitz and Boone's Farm Apple. And Boone's Farm Apple would come away seeming like it was Lafitte Rothschild, some $10,000 bottle of wine, because the stuff was awful. And it was enough to sour you on ever going to another bar mitzvah or even having one yourself. And certainly you didn't necessarily want to serve it at a wedding. But we wish the happiest of New Year's and the luckiest of New Year's. This should be a good day to be a degenerate. And we'll get into that. We'll be talking here in just a couple of minutes with our good friend Mike Jones. And there was a lot of baseball activity yesterday. Only one series left alive here in the wild card round, as you had the Brewers rally against the New York Mets. I don't know if I should go ahead and bring this in here, a little object of my affection for the New York Mets. I'm rooting for them. I have a 90-year-old friend that's been a diehard Met fan his entire life. He is living and dying with every pitch, as is the case when you have playoff baseball. And so we wish the Mets well, although we'll ask Mike Jones if he thinks they should have brought in Edwin Diaz yesterday to close the game out, even though it was the eighth inning when they had the lead. All right, if you are betting these games, and we hope you're betting a ton of stuff. We got a National Football League game tonight, a couple of college games, full slate of action coming up over the weekend we'll get into. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat. They have every matchup and even live odds and spreads you can bet on while the games are in progress. If you think you really know your stuff, get in on this. This is great. The $200,000 mega contest. You pick 5 games against the spread every week, and you have a chance to win weekly prizes and a shot at 200 grand. And as I often say, as we bring Mike Jones into the program here, that's enough to even get the attention of a guy the stature, the level of expertise of a Mike Jones. And good job centering yourself there, Michael.
Yeah.
Well, when the game's over, you can head on over to the BetOnline online casino. You can play blackjack. You can play poker. You can get involved in over 150 slot games they make available to you. Head to the website today to get in on all the action. BetOnline, the game starts here. And I thought I heard something there, Michael. We tried this last week. It didn't work out too well.
No,
You
it didn't.
as ever. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. And thanks for even giving me a second shot here. I did hear your comments about the relief pitcher and what happened with the Mets last night. And it was my only time I didn't get to bury the book yesterday is the Mets failed me. I had them, and it was really disappointing. 3-2. I thought we got three runs pretty early in the game. I thought we'd be okay. And, the middle relief was holding up. But it was a very interesting situation there that I kind of thought how frustrating can it be for the pitching coach to go out there, talk to him, and the next pitch, they're losing. I thought that was
So
very
often it happens. So, I mean, you
yeah,
see
it
that
was
as a matter of routine. In fact, if you're doing some in-game betting on Bet Online, soon as the pitching coach goes to the mound and they have the big meeting and everybody's in agreement and they're talking like this, because supposedly there's some lip reader with a huge Galileo-type telescope zeroed in on. And what's the guy got? He's got 3 pitches. He's going to throw one of them. And
right.
you can almost routinely bet that the next ball is going to be knocked out of the park, and it was in this case. So they get a decisive game 3. The Mets and the Brewers. The Brewers division winners. They had clinched it early, and the Mets, of course, had to life and death in total desperation win that first game. That was a great classic game on Monday, first game of the doubleheader against the
Oh,
Braves. They come out, and you're thinking that they're really going to be up against it, but they win the first game handily. And we're in a position to close the thing out. Now, a lot of different philosophies there. I guess the one reason that you might not have thrown Diaz in the 8th inning, the manager said that he liked the pitching matchup that he had, that he was happier with that.
yeah.
And then Diaz had thrown, I believe, 66 pitches between Sunday and Monday. And so he did not pitch in the Tuesday game. I don't know if he was ready to go or at 100%, but that might have been some kind of precautionary measure there that they thought that maybe he was, in need of another day of rest.
I think after the double play too, you're thinking you're going to get out of it. You got the double play to go 2 outs. I noticed even on the live betting as I stand there and look at this new way of betting now that it went from 214 to 140 in a pitch, and you still felt Milwaukee had the momentum 3-3 game. It's the edges there to the home team. Either the next guy up with the bat that gets on, and then the home run, and I don't know if you go to Diaz or not, but I think that the Mets tried. They were probably going by the book instead of by instinct. That's what I think it worked. Why the Mets were in that situation they were in, but they got
Yeah,
a game 3, and we'll see what happens.
yeah. If they brought in Diaz and he yielded the home run, then
Right.
everybody would have said, what an asshole this guy is. It reminded me of Jack McKeon when he decided to pitch Josh Beckett in the World Series against the Yankees. What was that, like 2003 or something
Yeah.
like that?
Mhm.
And yeah, and he went with Josh Beckett in Game 6, and everybody was saying, "Oh no, you should have just tried to win Game 6, and if you lost, you would have had Beckett for Game 7." And he said, "Fuck that, I'm going for the jugular right now." You always wish this about football coaches, where
Right.
they have a chance to go ahead and really bury another team, and instead they opt for the more cautious approach, which may make some sense from a strategic standpoint, but it's also the kind of thing that separates the really good instinctive coaches and managers from the run of the mill who routinely get beat by playing it by the book. Well, what did you make of some of the other series? I think the Yankees may be playing under a jinx now because I have my New York Post here from this morning, and they are talking about how the evil Astros, who have been a nemesis, of course,
Mhm.
for the Yankees for many playoffs in recent years, and wow, had an unbelievable record, reaching the championship series, 7 straight years or something
Wow.
like that?
Yeah, incredible.
Amazing. So playoff tough, playoff tested, and yet the Tigers, red hot, come in there and they knock them out in 2 games, including in dramatic fashion yesterday with that big rally that they had. Is it a softer path for the Yankees now? Because they draw the Royals in the next round. And is that right? Yeah, they're going to
I
go
don't
against
know.
Kansas City.
Well, I'm not a fan of the softer path theory. I think that the wild cards playing the 3 games or 2 or 3 games against the week off, the rest of having the week off. Yeah, the pitching gets lined up, but I kind of like the team that stays in rhythm. So I might like the Tigers a little bit or the Royals a little bit in one of these series. I bet you one of them win. Just because of that factor that I just think they maintain that momentum and keep going and they're used to playing all the days. They got Monday off. Now they'll get 2 days off going into or a day off extra. And I kind of like these teams that have this vibe going. I mean, the Royals were the underdog. They go in there, pitch brilliantly, only allow 1 run to Baltimore in the 2 games. I think the Yankees might have their hands full. Even though they've played well against them, I believe throughout the year. I like these dogs in these situations. The dogs are 5-3 in the first 8 games. The unders are 5-3. The pitching usually holds up at this time. We'll see if the Yankees can hold up.
You have to
Yeah,
love it too. I mean, they put a stat up or a graphic up yesterday in the Detroit game. Is this possible, Mike Jones, that Detroit's entire payroll is less than Josh Hader is getting paid for one season. That's
Amazing.
amazing that they would
It
be
is.
sitting in there with a shot now in the second round, the divisional series against the Guardians, with a chance to continue in the postseason when they were appeared to be hopelessly out of it. I think they're one of four teams in baseball, modern baseball history, to be more than 10 games out of it
Yeah.
and make the postseason after 110 games had been completed in the regular season. Hey, I wanted to get into a couple of things, and then we'll get into some of your selections. And this is Mike Jones, and he, of course, is a guy that you can find and get all of his insight. He was working on, I remember you were working on some sophisticated phone app
Yep, we are.
recently. I mean, and you're like a technological guy. I mean, unlike me, it's amazing you couldn't get your mic to work last week because
Yeah, well,
you are a genius when it comes to this stuff, including the evolution of what you think is going to be something that sort of revolutionizes the betting industry.
yeah, well, we're working on something to coordinate and crowdsource bettors to get together. I feel you're bringing me on for information. We all looking for information this day and age. We scatter the net. We do whatever we have to do. We connect with people through social media and all sorts of ventures. This thing is more or less geared toward taking gambling to that new, more modern venture that the younger generations will like and continue.
And
You
these
know,
kids are sending it in too. I mean, they're
yeah,
sending it in proportions we couldn't even imagine when we were growing up, Michael.
yeah. And so that's what kind of we're working on. We're on picksforprofits.com, giving out a different way of gambling. And this way, what we're trying to do is limit to bury your bookie. The bookie wants you to bet 100 games a weekend. They want you to keep firing and keep going. So we came up with a little more philosophy of bury your bookie. We're going to give you a game a day. We're going to try to centralize and try to hone in on certain games, college football, pro football, and give you that one game. And so we'll give a pick of a day and we'll give you another small package with 4 or 5 games a week. But again, that one, no more than 2 games a day. Then we come up with our best bet, which we're trying to revolutionize the industry. That if we lose because we bet our games, we're not going to hammer the guy. If we pick a game that we think is our best bet and it loses, we're going to give you your money back. So I think these are the things I try to work on, is just trying to revolution the industry where more or less we're going to try to make things a little simpler. And burying your bookie is less is more. We're going to give you less bets, want you to bet more money, but take you into that 1 or 2 games. So that's kind of what I'm gearing, my little way of orchestrating my way around the business now.
My early days of going to the racetrack, which were very early days, by the way, I remember running in, you'd run into the old timers, you'd ask them what they thought about things, and they would insist, and this predated simulcasting, they would insist that you can't play every race, that you need to come to the track, maybe play 1, 2, 3 max a day, and that was when they had a 9-race card. And no simulcasting. But unfortunately, my obsessive, compulsive, degenerate nature, once you could go into a place and bet any track on the board. I remember walking into Caesar's Palace for the first time and seeing this. And a friend of mine had told me prior to my trip to Las Vegas, you're going to think you died and went to heaven, as opposed to the hell that I was experiencing at the Jamaica OTB. And it was exactly that. So my eyes got kaleidoscopic, and we call it screen-to-screen betting, where the minute you lose a race, you're immediately looking for what's the next post time. But it's a proven way to failure.
Yes.
And almost anybody would tell you that. So, and now I was just looking at a whole column of prop bets on tonight's Thursday night game, including one that's very curious to me. And I may get into some kind of speculation. And I wanted to get into this with you because you had a story about how the in-game betting
Yep.
maybe at the point where they're looking to kind of put a little bit of a cap on that.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at this Kyle Pitts prop. Now, Kyle Pitts, I was reading another handicapping assertion that and stipulating that the Bucs would win the game, and one of the reasons was that Kyle Pitts is a shell of himself, the tight end for the Falcons. I can't get any separation and had 0 catches last week. But I'm thinking, some coach could easily double. I know they're making an enormous amount of money, not enough to be tempted to go ahead and say, hey, let me take the over on Pitts. But you would have to think that they try to establish this guy tonight. And after a 0 catch performance last week, so either he's completely lost it or the 31.5 yards looks to be a minuscule number to overcome. And yet, what's the deal now? People are going to be coming down on this in-game betting?
Well, yeah, the thing that you're seeing is all the innovation and with all the technology that these companies are putting to it, they're going to come with their own niche that they're going to do something different. And one of the things that I read, and which to me is eye-opening, is they feel like the in-game betting, when live betting first started, I thought that it was kind of rough from both standpoints. A, the bookmaker didn't really understand it. The player liked the idea of being able to bet game. Hey, I saw that team go up 7. I saw the quarterback get hurt. I'm going to go bet that team -10 now because they should win by 20. So
Yeah.
it gives the advantage. I talked to some old-time guys that really understood it, that were bettors, and said, I like this live betting. I don't have to rush home before the 1 o'clock kickoff and get my bet in. I could sit there and watch the first quarter and make a bet first quarter. At that time, you could bet quarters, halves. You could still do it. So what I think happens now is the lines change so frequently that does the bettor have a fair shake of what they're going to get? Do they press the button and get that confirmation that they're laying 3.5, lay 160, and they're happy with that? And all of a sudden the line goes to 6, lay 110. And they're like, well, wait a minute, I just had 3.5 and I clicked, and then the algorithm didn't work, and then the bet didn't get accepted. It kicked me out, and we changed the line, and I accidentally confirmed it didn't. So now we have the politicians, government getting involved with this, they're calling a Safe Bet Act. They're trying to bring this to office and vote on it. And I'm not sure it's the right idea for politicians to get involved in this when it's brand new to them, and most of them don't even know what they're really looking at. But yet, I thought if live betting has been a real boost to the industry. I think a lot of players like it. I know the houses like it. Is it going to stand people coming in there trying to make this move on it? And I understand why it helps both sides. I mean, the player likes it, but if they're not getting their bet in at the same time, and some of them feel they're getting ripped off, that becomes an issue to the governments to try to control it. So I think where this goes in the next, year or two will be interesting to see if government does get involved and limits how you can do it. The houses don't like, if you and I are at the game watching the interception happen live, and we're sitting on our live number, do we get that play prior to they get it? And they feel they're at a disadvantage, And then for the TV viewer who's on high def screens that sometimes are 20 to 30-second delay, you think you're watching a touchdown and might get called back, and the line's, I got this line at this, and then that doesn't happen. Or the play gets reviewed and gets reversed, and that big completion doesn't happen. So I think this is where I think they're trying to figure out the powers that be exactly where this all fits in and what they're going to do.
Kind of always wish they had that in dog racing.
Yeah.
Where you're clobbered at the box, there goes the bunny and there goes your money. Was the way it went for me. But it would have been nice to be able to see the start, which was pretty much everything. But when you were talking about greyhound racing, which is now in most areas, I think been shut down completely because of the overall unsavory nature of it. All right, let's get into some picks here, Mike. I don't know where you want to go. We have one baseball game tonight, and of course, a series and all kinds of things. By the way, congratulations. We did a show called License to Steal, which this is an offshoot of before the baseball season got underway. You are a baseball expert. You hit all 3 of your future bets.
I did.
And then I hit my 2 with the Marlins under, which was accomplished in May. And then we got lucky at the end of the year to get the Pittsburgh Pirates over 74 and a hook. They ended up with 76. And so we went 5-0 in future bets on that program between the two of us. So.
And I got lucky with an Orioles sweep over the Twins when they were playing for nothing.
Yeah.
To get that when the Twins had everything on the line. It's another great way of looking at all this when you're betting these props and all this stuff. Usually that team that the Twins needed to win those 3 games to get to the playoffs, they lose. The Orioles are playing for nothing. They win. I win my bet.
Yes.
And I'm saying to myself, I had the Orioles way ahead the whole season. They go into a tank, ready to tank out, and then all of a sudden I win. And then vice versa, I have the Tigers set with the sell-off at the All-Star break, getting rid of Flaherty players and guys coming back off injury list, and they get on the best run of any team in the American League in the second half, and I make that bet when I thought I had no shot. So, it's amazing how
it's always great to cash when you're dead wrong. That's for sure. All right, let's get into your selections. You can just roll right through them here. As these are Mike Jones picks.
I'm going to look at the game tonight, and I kind of liked Atlanta and was talked out of it. I like the home team on a Thursday night. It's 2-1 so far against the number. Not sure when I look at these division matchups. I love them, but the stats show that these division Thursday night matchups are notoriously unders. And so far we've had on the Thursday night game, we've had all unders. So I'm going to stick with the trend and go for 5 in a row and say maybe the under 43.5 might be the side here in this particular game. I think both defenses will show. And I know Baker's been very good against zone defense, which I've seen that he's played well. And Morris will play a little zone here, so I don't know if that enhances points. But I'm going to say tough spot coming off a big emotional win against Philly, going on the road. Tough game with New Orleans, with Atlanta. I think maybe the defenses are a little ahead of the game with the short prep week, so I'm going to go under on that with the game tonight.
All right, football game tonight, NFL action, Bucks and the Falcons. We had a selection the other day from Scotty M. He likes the Bucks in this game. And Mike Jones saying, hey, go ahead and take a shot with the under at 43 and a hook. All right, what else do you have for us, my friend?
I'm going to stick with the Mets. I'm going to say they bounce back. They'll have their pen going. I like Quintana in this game. Again, I'm the underdog in the series, so I'm going to gear my way a little bit and hope that the Mets can help your 90-year-old buddy and not stress him out a little bit too much. We bring one home for him. So the Mets in that game.
All right, the Mets to move on and advance in the baseball postseason. Anything else?
Yep, and I'm going to go with my team. And, we have the Big Gunner podcast on Spotify where I talk New York Football Giants all the time. My life experience of working with the team in the 80s as an equipment manager lets me bleed blue and not red like most people do. So I'm going to look at this game and say that this is a really tough game for them. Traveling out west to Seattle, always been tough. Seattle coming off a tough Monday night game, and they're really decimated with injuries on their front line. So if the Giants could be with Neighbors questionable, I think it's a big if here. So if you're getting a Sunday and you think Neighbors is going to play, I'm going to assume that line will drop. That'll be your key to the game. It went from 6 to 6.5 with Neighbors and concussion protocol yesterday. So once he didn't practice, and I think they announced it, I thought you might have seen some Seattle action come in. There's a stat out there, Jeff, and I think this is important for people to know, and it's affected all the suicide pools. That 6.5 point spreads and more are undefeated to the underdog and have won 8 out of 9.
Wow.
Right. So the Giants fall into this with the 6.5. So my heart's with the right place. The statistics are telling me. I'm going to say maybe we don't get a win, although we're desperately in need of one. The short week against the Giants with 10 days rest gears the Giants. I'm going to take a shot with the 6.5 and go with my heart and say, okay, we're going to jump on the Giants on Sunday.
All right, I'm going to play doctor here, just from my own experience. Guys in concussion protocol on Wednesday, he isn't likely to play with the supposed concern that the NFL is showing towards these type of injuries. They didn't seem to care about it. They may as well have made James Woods from Any Given Sunday the medical supervisor of the National Football League for the many years. In fact, they had a guy that was in a total denial that concussions were even the slightest, most remote of a problem. But being a little bit more overly sensitive to it now, if anything, I mean, we're talking about Tua retiring, and maybe for the right reasons. I'm going to speculate that Neighbors doesn't play in this game. Plus, the last interview we did was conducted in Turkish. So I'm not sure. Well, Mike, good luck. So Mike Jones giving you the under tonight. Early action during the week here. We get right into it tonight. Falcons, Bucks under 43.5. Likes the Giants getting 6 and a hook in their game against the Seattle Seahawks, and the Mets tonight to come back from that devastating defeat of yesterday and take game 3 of their series against the Milwaukee Brewers. Mike, once again, where can people find all of your stuff and your information that you give out?
Picksforprofits.com. Come and join us. Take a good look. We're limited our amount of games we're going to give you, but we feel our records are good. And the Big Gunner podcast on Spotify. We talk Giant football all the time. And appreciate all the people coming on board.
All right. Sounds good, my friend. Thank you so much for being with us. It's always a pleasure. We'll talk to you next week.
Great. Look forward to it. Thanks.
All right. Mike Jones, ladies and gentlemen, joining us here on Bury Your Bookie. So we have a lot of stuff. I guess we should do a quick review and then get into this thing that's happening with the Miami Dolphins. Once again, this is our hometown team, but I was reading an interesting article about what's transpiring at the very top of the front office Scotty M on Tuesday gave us he likes the Bucks in this ball game. They were getting 2.5. Then that line's down to 1.5. So we'll give it to Scotty M at 2.5 for his official pick where we made that selection. He likes the Packers minus 3.5 over the Rams. That's in Sunday football action. He likes Indiana laying 14. He added that against Northwestern, and Boston College plus 3 over Virginia. Troy West, who's been on fire for us at 8-1. Had Arizona State yesterday, minus 3 against Kansas. Washington, minus 2.5 against the Michigan Wolverines going on the road for a contest. And the Buffalo Bills to bounce back against the Texans. And you just heard from Mike Jones. We'll have the professor on college football tomorrow. So the story goes like this. I'm just perusing the sports section this morning. And this guy, Tsai, who owns the Brooklyn Nets and also the New York Liberty and other sporting entities, he is in a position now where he's about to purchase 10% of the Miami Dolphins franchise, which also includes Hard Rock Stadium. The Fins own their own stadium. And Stephen Ross, the much criticized Stephen Ross for being many people asserting that he's clueless because his team always seems to find its way into mediocrity and has been mired as such in mediocrity for the last 20 years. No matter what they do, it doesn't seem to work. And it looks like this season has completely imploded. Jalen Phillips now out for the season, one of their pass rushers that they desperately need, and they don't have a lot in terms of depth because they gave everybody a ton of cash on the offensive side of the ball and the coach, which doesn't count against the cap. But still, I mean, it's a lot of money out of Stephen Ross's pocket for what looks to be a recipe for disaster. All that being said, you talk about gambling and profiting. Stephen Ross, you see him in the booth, he's up there in the owner's suite. They take a shot at Stephen Ross while the Dolphins are getting hammered, fumbling the football away while down 3 scores and losing all possible opportunity of even the most faint hope of a comeback. And he's sort of there like nonchalant. And he's talking to the guy who's like the CEO. His name is actually Garfinkel, but I've always referred to him as Garfunkel. And he's looking great, like he just inherited a couple of $1 zillion, which they have. And then you see the Dolphin personnel, including some former players that are involved in decision-making. Dan Marino, the great one. Nat Moore is always there. He's biting his fingernails. Chris Greer is twitching. And you see all of the Dolphin executives and the people that are involved on the actual on-field activity, and they are schwitzing and looking like they're absolutely in need of a Dilaudid drip. And then you realize that this transaction for 10% of the team with this guy Tsai, Stephen Ross, he paid $1.4 billion for the team, and then he got the tennis tournament here, so he improved the grounds greatly around Hard Rock Stadium, and also put in this Formula One, which is something that I absolutely don't get the fascination with it. Nobody changes position, same guy wins every week. And all of these people are flying in from Saudi Arabia and all around the world, Brazil, and all celebrities of the highest of stature in those various categories. And I'm thinking, who the fuck would pay to watch this shit? But nonetheless, it's enhanced the value of the franchise and the overall value of the whole entity that the Miami Dolphins Incorporated, or whatever they are as a business entity. And the deal is going to be evaluating the Dolphins now at $8.4 billion. So this guy put up, let's say he invested another $1 billion in upgrading the facilities there. So he's got $2.5 billion and in a relatively short period of time, he tripled his money. And in terms of billions. So no wonder he's happy and nobody gives a shit about the performance on the field, which unfortunately, as we've been talking about since that Monday night debacle and atrocity of a football game, has been abysmal at best. All right, good luck with all of your wagers, people. A lot of activity. We'll have the professor on tomorrow. He's always great on college football. And we're not trying to push anything on you here. We have displayed a winning record with all of our handicappers so far, which is great, including, and I think I'm even on the upside of selections, which is kind of unusual, right? Going all the way back to my bar mitzvah. But when I was guzzling Manischewitz thinking, are you going to fucking score or what? But yeah, I mean, we're just, if you're looking for some kind of affirmation on your opinions, that's what we're trying to present to you here on Bury Your Bookie. And we'll do it again tomorrow with a big slate of college football and a professor. So until then, thanks so much for tuning in. Again, Happy New Year to all of our degenerate Jewish brethren out there. And best of luck with all of your wagers and good luck on the game tonight. We'll see you next time. I'm Jeff Deforrest for Bury Your Bookie.